Are sanctuary policies a compassionate shield for the vulnerable, or a dangerous weapon that protects violent criminals? This question lies at the heart of a blistering congressional hearing, where shocking accusations transformed a policy debate into a raw, emotional battlefield. Representatives leveled devastating charges, linking sanctuary laws directly to the rape of a 5-year-old girl, a woman being burned alive on a subway, and the molestation of a child. In response, governors defended their policies as humane and necessary, accusing their opponents of weaponizing fear and terrorizing innocent families. This is not just a political disagreement, it is a clash of two irreconcilable realities. So, where does political responsibility end and accountability for brutal violence begin?
With a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car, he took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York. Do you know who Sebastian Zapita Khalil is?
I'm sure you'll tell me there's many cases, whether they're...
These are high-profile cases. Yes. New Yorkers know about them, and you don't. So let's talk about Sebastian Zapita Khalil. Do you know who that is?
I don't have the specific details at my disposal, no.
Well, this is an illegal migrant in New York because of your sanctuary state policies. Do you know what crime he committed?
I'm not familiar at this moment.
I bet you're going to be familiar when I remind you. He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York. And as I'm sure you are aware, and I'll remind you, that ICE issued an order to detain this violent criminal, but that was rejected by New York officials due to sanctuary state laws. Now, do you know who Raymond Rojas Basilio is?
I just want to say this. These crimes are horrific.
Because of your sanctuary state policies.
In all of these cases, we would work with ICE to remove them.
You did not in this case. They are walking on the streets because of your policies and your executive order that you signed 3 times. Now, Raymond Rojas Basilio, do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. I will explain to you the policies of New York. We cooperate with, I know you're just trying to...
You do not. Specifically, ICE was told not to detain this individual, and he burned a woman alive on the New York subways in Kathy Hochul's New York. So I will keep on going. What about Raymond Rojas Basilio? Do you know who that is?
I'm going to tell you our overall policy, which will address all this.
I'll tell you who that is. He is an illegal who molested an 11-year-old in our state because, again, of your sanctuary state policies. This illegal was shielded from federal immigration enforcement and able to commit this heinous crime. And what about Wilson Castillo-Diaz? Do you know who that is?
I'm telling you this. We do cooperate fully with ICE in criminal prosecution. Our sanctuary
You're not advocating for these victims.
Only deal with civil
This is a 5-year-old who was raped
civil
on Long Island in Nassau County. You are not advocating on behalf of these victims. You are shielding illegals. Even in your opening statement, you prioritize putting illegals first.
That is not
Rapes
true.
of young girls, beatings of NYPD cops by illegals who are here under Kathy Hochul's failed policies, burning New Yorkers alive. This is Kathy Hochul's New York. It's one of the many reasons why you're hemorrhaging support from hardworking New York families.
These are horrific crimes, and they're heartbreaking.
They're horrific crimes that are committed on your watch. You signed this executive order on your first day in office. You signed it again and again this January. We deserve a governor who stands up for law-abiding New Yorkers, doesn't put illegals first, but actually puts New Yorkers first. I appreciate
Rather than going after the viral moment, I suggest you look at the facts.
I'm standing up for New Yorkers.
No.
Rather than addressing the illegals in New York, you are prioritizing your far-left sanctuary state policies, which you put in place with executive orders. Instead of advocating for victims, a 5-year-old who was raped, you did not. They were released because of sanctuary state policies in New York State. No amount of words is going to clean up your failed record and these horrific crimes committed in sanctuary state that you created. And with that, I yield back.
Your representation, the facts,
Gentlelady,
absolutely false.
Yields back.
Absolutely
Chair recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's be real. Since the start of the Trump administration, each day has been more nightmarish than the last. But in the past few days and weeks, we have seen a significant escalation of Trump's mass deportation agenda. On May 29th, a 9-year-old child and his father were reportedly detained in Torrance, California, and separated from one another by ice. A fourth grader ripped from the only community he knows and from the arms of his father. We have kids who are afraid to go to school, afraid that ice will grab them, and their families from school grounds, and afraid their parents will not be there when they get home. Schools are supposed to be safe havens for our children that foster learning and growth. Instead, the Trump administration is deliberately weaponizing them, terrorizing children and families with its immigration policies, and threatening more than 600,000 students, kids with detention and removal. President Trump has called for an end to birthright citizenship, a constitutional right recognized since the end of slavery. He has cut federal contracts that give 2-year-olds representation in immigration court. He has ripped the children who are immigrants and United States citizens from schools, their friends, their neighborhoods, and their homes. There is no other way to spin this. President Trump is waging a cruel and deliberate war against children. Ms. Perriman, do all children residing in the United States have a constitutional right to attend public schools regardless of immigration status?
They do.
Ms. Perriman, how is President Trump going further than past presidents in authorizing ICE to carry out enforcement activities in schools, hospitals, and places of worship?
Yes, I mean, this is what brought us to court on behalf of the Baptists and the Quakers and the Sikh communities and other religious communities that are having to challenge this. For more than 30 years, the country had a policy that prevented indiscriminate enforcement activities at what we call sensitive locations. That includes houses of worship, and it includes schools. We saw in the early days of this administration, the Department of Homeland Security rescind that policy and endanger people, all people, not just immigrants, but people who are seeking to engage in communal worship, people who are seeking to go to school, and to be present in other sensitive locations like hospitals.
Governor Walz, what does it mean for children in Minnesota if ICE comes to their classrooms?
Well, thank you, Congresswoman. Minnesota prioritizes education. We're proud of our education system. We're proud that when students come to school, they get a good meal, they have well-qualified teachers, and it's a place where it's safe. It's a safe place where they can learn. We prioritize it because our economy depends upon it, and it's the right thing to do. Disruptions at places like school, when ICE is free to operate in Minnesota within the laws, but to disrupt schools, to disrupt and come to those schools, not only the impact to that individual student, but to the entire learning environment in those schools are disrupted by it. And again, we agree with everyone here, those committing crimes is where we need to focus, but being on campuses in elementary schools is not getting at that.
Thank you. Governor Pritzker, when ICE detains and arrests parents as they drop off kids at school, how does this affect educational outcomes?
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. Let me begin by saying that, as you may know, under President Trump, ICE showed up in Chicago nearly immediately and began terrorizing our neighborhoods, our schools, and parents. Indeed, many parents felt like they needed to go into hiding, even though their children needed to go to school every day. And so disrupting that environment, frankly, not just for the children, but for the parents and for teachers and the entire school community, it is something that, we believe in Illinois in educating all of our kids, making sure that they get what they need in our public schools. In fact, we've invested significantly in making sure the results have been very good. 8th graders in Illinois rank 2nd in reading in the entire country. 8th graders in Illinois rank 5th in the country in mathematics. And it's because we have a safe environment, but not when Tom Homan brings Dr. Phil with the overreach of force with ICE to disrupt our education system, and particularly our elementary schools.
Thank you. Gentlelady's time's expired. Chair recognizes the Majority Whip, Mr. Emmer from Minnesota.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome back to Washington, Governor. I'm going to run through a series of facts before I get to my questions, so let's get started. Governor Walz, you signed the Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill into law in May of 2023. That bill expanded Minnesota Care to provide free health care to illegal aliens. You signed the Higher Education Omnibus Bill into law in May of 2023.
What we witnessed in that hearing room was not a genuine search for legislative solutions. It was a masterclass in political theater, a raw and brutal performance where facts were weaponized and narratives were constructed for maximum impact. On one side, we saw a meticulously planned prosecutorial assault. Representative Stefanik's strategy was not merely to question, but to convict in the court of public opinion. Her method was a textbook example of emotional transference. By reciting a horrifying litany of crimes, rape, immolation, child molestation, and immediately linking them to Governor Hochul's sanctuary policies, she created a powerful, visceral connection for the audience. This policy equals this horror. The names she listed, Sahir Akan, Sebastian Zapita Khalil, were not just case files, they were rhetorical ammunition. Governor Hochul's defense was procedural and nuanced, attempting to debate the definition of cooperation with ICE on criminal matters. But nuance is a fragile shield against the fire of such brutal accusations. In this arena, Stefanik's shocking, simple narrative overwhelmed Hochul's complex reality. Representative Emmer employed a similar yet distinct tactic against Governor Walz. Instead of focusing on victims, Emmer attacked the governor's character and ideology. He listed a series of policies: free healthcare, free college, driver's licenses for undocumented immigrants to paint Minnesota as a magnet for illegals. But his masterstroke was unearthing Governor Walz's own words, comparing ICE agents to the modern-day Gestapo. This single quote became the centerpiece of his attack, transforming a policy debate into an accusation of treasonous rhetoric against federal law enforcement. By equating Walz's words with disrespect for the brave Americans at ICE, Emmer skillfully framed the governor not just as misguided, but as dangerous and unpatriotic. Walz's attempt to defend his policies by highlighting Minnesota's successes was rendered almost irrelevant. He was forced to defend his own past statements, a battle he was destined to lose in this forum. However, the hearing was not a one-sided affair. It was a tale of two conflicting realities, and Representative Norton was the architect of the counter-narrative. She executed a brilliant pivot, completely ignoring the accusations of criminal activity. Instead, she reframed the entire issue around a different set of victims: immigrant children and families. She spoke of a 9-year-old child ripped from his father, of kids afraid to go to school, and of a deliberate war against children waged by the Trump administration. Her language was just as emotionally charged as Stefanik's, but it was aimed at a different emotional target. While Stefanik invoked fear of the criminal other, Norton invoked empathy for the vulnerable other. This strategic shift reveals the fundamental chasm in the American immigration debate. It's a conflict between two core fears: the fear of unchecked criminality and the fear of inhumane cruelty. Both sides presented a reality that is true to their constituents, but utterly incompatible with the other. The term sanctuary state itself became a floating signifier, meaning haven for criminals to one side and place of safety to the other. The debate was never about the operational details of Executive Order 1 or Minnesota's driver's license laws. It was about which narrative would dominate, which version of America would seem more real and more urgent. In the end, the hearing reveals a sobering truth about the state of modern political discourse. It is less about finding common ground and more about solidifying one's base and creating viral moments of outrage. The question we posed at the beginning, who is responsible, was never going to be answered here. The goal was not to find an answer, but to ensure the other side was blamed. The real victims are not only the individuals whose tragedies were used as political props, but also the public, who are left with a more polarized, more fearful, and less informed understanding of a deeply complex issue. The performance of outrage has replaced the process of governance. What is your take on this? Are sanctuary policies a dangerous gamble on public safety or a moral necessity in a compassionate society? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you appreciate this kind of in-depth analysis, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that goes beyond the headlines.